Hello, everybody. I'm just waiting for the live on air button to appear to be absolutely certain that we are live. So I'm just going to continue to talk slowly for a little minute, but we are on the Coaching Room Community Call as part of the leadership series. I'm going to continue to talk. Max, would you just double check you've got a live? Give me a thumbs up, Jay. If you've got a live button, it's only me that's the one. You're fine. That's okay. In which case, welcome everybody. Coaching Room Community Call Leadership Series, Managing versus Leading. That's what we're going to be discussing today, the difference that makes a difference. Max is in the background. Just a few dates for you, just a little reminders at the end, a bit more information on leadership course coming up next year and what we have as well available in this area. But mostly, this is about Jay's perspective, Jay's work within the leadership space, and even more than that, it's about you as leaders or as managers and about the people around you and how you can be working better with them, with yourselves, and so on. But we're going to come into that. Jay, welcome.
Hey, how you going?
Very good. You look like you're in a hotel room.
I am traveling, yeah.
And out and about doing the work. Right then, so let's begin. What is leadership? What is management? Let us explore.
So the first thing to note is leadership and management don't exist. Yeah, that you've never seen either of them. They are nominalizations, and so that's what we call pseudonouns. They look like a thing, but they're not. So they're pointing at and to get what they're pointing at, we have to turn them back into verbs. And so for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to refer to them as leading and managing. Yeah. So there's the first bit. So I think that it's useful to really get some clear distinctions between what leading and what managing is. Would that be useful?
Yes, go for it.
We'll start with managing. So managing is about setting, about performing, and about measuring, about setting objectives, key performance indicators, about measuring those, and about performing those. So we set the objectives, we perform to the objectives, we measure the objectives. And so it's about setting outcomes or key performance indicators. It's about measuring and monitoring that performance. It's about gauging and benchmarking and creating benchmarks. Good quality management is about creating high quality benchmarks for the systems, for the processes, for the performance, for the actions, for the behaviors, what works, what doesn't work. And so it's about creating those systems in order to manage them. It's about maintaining standards. It's about reporting and reporting systems and processes. It's about identifying and mitigating risk, about managing and reporting those risks. It's about time and priority management. And it's really, if we were to look at it, it's about the status quo. What's happening? What do we need to focus? Where do we need to focus? What do we need to do next? At what level do we need to do it? So there's, in a nutshell, there's management. Yeah, we call it attentively intentional. That is, my intention is to be attentive to what is going on now.
Okay. What about leadership?
So leadership doesn't exist. So let's go with leading. And so leading is about others. It's about the human beings, about the people side of things. It's about creating, exploring, and communicating meaning, value, intentionality. It's about engaging others in a vision, a future vision of possibility. So it starts with dreaming. It starts with thinking about where we could be as a mismatch for where we are. And that's one of the key differences. Management is about here and now. Leadership's really about the future and the possibility of that future. And so it's about pioneering. That is, going where, as in the words of Captain James T. Kirk, boldly going where no person has gone before. And so that's a key element of leadership. If you're not doing something different, you aren't leading. And so it's not managing the status quo, it's mismatching the status quo. That's a critical element. We're not interested in the status quo. We're interested in what the future looks like as a mismatch for now. So it's about pioneering. It's about disrupting the status quo. So we're not only in leadership, we're not only not managing and maintaining the status quo, we're actively disrupting it in service of its future potential. So it's about engaging people in their three centers: the head, that is their logic, their intellect, engaging their IQ. It's about engaging their heart, their emotions, and their emotional intelligence. And it's about engaging their gut, their identity, their value system, the reason for being, their purpose for being a human being and alive and kicking, and their purpose for making a difference, the reason that they're there. So it's about creating, engaging meaningfulness through future possibility, and meaningfulness about personal possibility of engaging in that future possibility. It's about developing people and developing systems and processes that enable people to be far more effective. It's about simplifying things, not making things more complex. And it's about self-actualization and about a self-actualizing workplace. As Warren Benner says, so leading is doing the right things, and managing is doing things right. So in our world, they are the key differences between leading and managing.
Okay. Different people, different roles, different personalities. How does this all tie in? So if people are watching this, and it's like they have an aspect of management maybe, and have an aspect of leadership, but different people are going to have a focus on each, depending upon their role, let's say.
Well, it also depends on their attitude, their disposition. It depends on their stage of development. It depends on their personality structures. All of that's a given, because all of that's human stuff. And so it's about really understanding and engaging. So the new style of leadership that is really emerging now is about how do I connect and relate with what is going on with my people now, and engage them in understanding that the status quo is not where their potential exists, that their personality, that their differences isn't where it's at, that the status quo, that the way it is, that it isn't their potential, that being comfortable is gonna get uncomfortable at some stage. And leadership is about disrupting comfort in service of taking people to the edge of their comfort zone into an uncomfortable or space of discomfort, in service of them finding out the possibility of them. The new leadership in our world that's really emerging is becoming a disruptor of the status quo, and a developer of people. And so leaders need to begin to really understand the human beings that they're leading through personality structures, through stages of development, through lines of intelligence, through how we human beings process energies, to how we motivate ourselves and demotivate ourselves. Leaders have really got to become specialists in human beings, as we're shifting out of, the phases of knowledge into really people development is the next phase and awakening potential within people is the next phase of where we're going with leadership, in our view.
Let's talk specific case studies. Let's talk about what happens when you start the process, and I'm talking now you, Jay, and how people experience the process and what comes out of it at the end. Because disruption and discomfort are things that aren't necessarily, inevitably, what people want until they start to have it after they've got it.
Yeah, and so what that's pointing to is the fact that they're managing. So it's pointing to a managing culture. It's pointing to a desire for status quo, and what's gonna end up is that they're gonna end up with a culture that they haven't designed. They're going to end up with a culture that they get rather than one they've created. And so to create a culture is to purposely disrupt the current culture in service of the possibility of that collective of people and how they could possibly come together in service of their and their customers' potential. So in organizations exist to serve customers. And so an organization can fall asleep and the marketplace is going to move on, their competitors are going to move on, and they're going to find that their customers have moved on. And this is constant, and it's getting faster, it's accelerating. Yeah, and so people can stay where they are and they can stick with the status quo, but you see the marketplace, their customers are all going to keep moving and their needs are going to keep shifting and changing. And if they're not adaptive, and this is not only in business organization, but sporting organizations, not-for-profit organizations, childcare organizations, the needs of their customer, whether it be a child, a sporting fan, or somebody who's purchasing a computer, then if they're not adaptive to the needs of their customers as their customers' needs change, then they're going to get left behind. And so the simple fact is that by its very nature, the disruption of the status quo is accelerating out in the marketplace anyway. So you can stay asleep to that and deny that, but eventually it's going to pull you into needing to change. And so you can either choose to evolve and choose to focus on developing your people in service of the evolution of the company, or you can be subject to the marketplaces pulling your evolution. Up to you.
Let's use an example, the sport example that currently we have as a download on the front page of the website, which is Waratahs and the work you've been doing with them.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's start then. Let's talk the difference managing versus leadership on that one, Jay, just so people can understand what management is within that context as well.
So managing is trying to manage the status quo. It's trying to manage how the players show up on the field. It's trying to manage how we're going to address the next challenge. It's trying to manage the discussions, trying to manage the processes, trying to manage the players and what's going on with them. And last season, it became crystal clear to the Waratahs that doesn't work. And it became more and more obvious the more and more they tried to manage things, the more and more that the other teams took advantage of them and ultimately did them a huge favor by revealing to them that the status quo isn't okay and is not going to work for them as they struggled to get fans to the game, and that cost them financially, and that has a flow-on impact. And so in the end, it was a big wake-up call that they needed to really disrupt the whole place, disrupt the executives, disrupt the coaches, disrupt the players, disrupt how they approach the game, disrupt the status quo of the systems, disrupt how they did things, disrupt how they change, how they go about fitness, how they go about their systems and processes, how they go about engaging their players. All of it was on the table, and that's the beautiful thing, that this season has enabled them a mandate for truly leaning into a difference that in my view and now in their view is absolutely going to make a difference, and that change has already begun. And so that's no different from working, with an airline or working with a not-for-profit organization. They face the same problems, that their competitors out there are constantly evolving, and in response they need to be, and this is the same for a sporting team, uber adaptive. They need to learn to think on their feet. They need to be able to prepare in such a way that they can adapt to anything that is in front of them, to be able to transform the inner game in service of transforming the outer game, to transform the outer game in fitness and in well-being, and in order to transform the inner game. And so it's about engaging the individual, engaging them in a collective way to a vision. And the Waratahs have what I would consider to be an outstanding vision. It's up to them to share that, not me. But I think that this next 2018 season, that the marketplace and their competitors are going to be quite shocked at what it is they're seeing, and I think it's probably going to be fairly unexpected.
But that's exciting for you, isn't it?
It's exciting for them. And there's a movement and an energy growing that I think that what we're creating at the Waratahs isn't a one-hit wonder. It is overall, we're building a legacy for not only the Waratahs but for New South Wales rugby, which is one of the largest rugby states in the world. And I think that the transformations that they're making there will reverberate through the whole field of rugby worldwide.
Great. Exec coaching, one-to-one, working with the individual one-to-one, or coaching programs within organizations where people are going through this. We published something recently about performance coaching that James did versus leadership development coaching.
Developmental coaching, yeah.
Yeah, let's touch on that and just show the differences, because when you start talking about stage of development and lines of development, or levels of development, let's say, lines of development and structure of self, all of this is very coaching room. And I think it's one of the unique aspects. And obviously there's a connection back to NLP, and there's other things that are coming through. But there's a very broad spectrum of perspective. The Enneagram, these sorts of things come in. So when you are working, and when an organization is disrupting, what is the role of that versus performance coaching?
So let's liken performance coaching to performance leadership, and then let's liken developmental coaching to developmental leadership.
Okay.
I think that'd be probably really useful, and I think you've made a really good point. So performance leadership's really managing, and if we look at Ken Wilber's quadrants, it's third and fourth person perspective. It's managing behaviors and actions. It's managing communication. It's managing performance against a set criteria that is benchmarkable, that is observable, that is changeable, and its focus is on changing it now. And then from a fourth person perspective, it's focus on the systems, the functional fit of the people in the roles, their performance in those roles, their ability to follow systems and processes. And then if we liken that back to performance coaching is really about facilitating change in performance, in actions, behaviors, communicating systems, processes, and capabilities and functional fit. So performance coaching is really about how a person is performing, how they're showing up, what they're doing, what they're not doing, what they need to start doing, what they need to stop doing in order to be effective. Developmental coaching and developmental leadership, on the other hand, if we look at Ken Wilber's quadrants, is first and second person perspective. It's about leading and developing the individual's interior in service of the exterior, and then leading and developing the cultural interior of the collective in service of how that culture informs systems, processes, and the social function, how teams come together, how people connect, relate, and communicate, how they interact with one another, how they interact with technology and systems, and so on. And so developmental coaching and developmental leadership is about leading the inner game, individually and collective, in service of the outer game. Because when you make changes at the inner game, Peter Senge, who is probably the most renowned systems theorist on the planet, and really operates largely from a fourth person perspective. But recently I read something from him that was really talking into fifth person, and I think there's a massive development going on in him at the moment, said that in his recent experience, the difference that makes the difference in organizational change is the individual's interior leading the process. Now, from a systems theorist, that is off the chart. Hey, for a systems theorist to suddenly leave fourth person perspective and to be starting to see that fourth person and third person is informed by first and second person is off the chain for me, and is revealing that, you know, even people who have given their whole life to a single subject can evolve to transcend and include their whole life's work. Gives me immense heart for humanity and human beings. And I deeply love that he was able to not only see that, but to articulate it in such a beautiful way. Because it's also my experience. That's my experience in working with Waratahs Rugby. It's my experience in working with airlines and not-for-profit organisations. It's my experience in working with government institutions and councils. The inner game of the leader leading the transformational process has more impact than the process itself. And that's pointing straight to the individual's consciousness, their personality structure, their stage of development, their capacity for emotional intelligence, their capacity for cognitive intelligence, their capacity for spiritual intelligence is more important than what they do. Now that is something else. And that, for me, is Peter Senge disrupting his own life's work. And I take a deep bow to him for doing that. So that would be what I would say is the difference between developmental leadership and performance-based leadership, and developmental coaching and performance-based coaching. We coach and develop the individual and the collective's interior in service of its exterior. The exterior is a translation of the interior.
I want to dive into a little bit of detail on the difference now of meta programs between managing and leadership, because you mentioned that before we started the call.
Sure. Yeah. And so, I mean, this is the attentional process, hey? And so the intentional process is, what is the leader attending to? And so the first thing leaders attend to is they attend to the big picture. They are global attenders. Managers, on the other hand, are detailed viewers of reality. They are looking at the detail. So that's one of the key metaprogrammic differences. Leaders run a global big picture metaprogram. Managers have a tendency for a detailed specific metaprogram. Leaders run options. They're constantly rotating and rolling through options. Managers preface procedures. So that's options, procedures metaprogram. Leaders intuit their responses, and managers sense their what is going on with their senses. They attend to what they can see, hear, and feel. Leaders attend to possibility, and managers focus on necessity. That's the necessity possibility metaprogram. Leaders attend to their own decision-making authority, so that is self-authoring, self-authority. Managers attend to external authority for decision-making. Leaders attend to being in their role versus managers attending to doing the job right. Leaders perceive, managers judge. Leaders attend to being in time, i.e. unaware of time passing or flowing, so they're in flow. And managers attend to being through time, when's time, what needs to be done in what time, how does it need to be done, are we on time, are we over time? I mean, you're only going to look at pay structures. Leaders are strong mismatches of reality. Managers are matches of reality. They seek agreement, look for how things are working. Leaders look for how things aren't working, and they look to challenge the status quo. And then finally, and this is not an exhaustive list, this is just what Joseph and I have worked on putting together. Finally, leaders focus on the why, which is the purpose and the meaning. Managers focus on the what and the how, which is the actions, the behaviors, the systems. And so they're the core set of metaprograms that really differentiate leaders and managers. If I was to extend that, leaders, just from a thought I had, leaders are interested in the future, managers are interested in the present. Leaders are interested in stability, managers, in change or evolution. Managers are interested in stability. Leaders are long-term thinkers, managers are short-term thinkers. Leaders are dreamers, managers follow basic instructs. Leaders empower subordinates, managers control and command their subordinates. Leaders look for simplicity, managers value and enjoy complexity. Leaders are intuitive, managers rely on logic. They would be, you know, the key principles that differentiate leaders and managers.
Cool, great. I'm going to ask Max if he's changed the slide there. So on the website, it's on the home page. If people are interested in seeing some of the approaches, some of the programs, we've got Women in Leadership program, we've got the Exec Coaching program, we've got the Unleashing Leaders 3-day program as well, and the ability to do in-house bespoke content too. So do check out the link underneath the video. We'll make sure that that is there. And on top of that, we've got, well, Max, do you want to say what we've got coming up next year as well? Just a little reminder, little teaser on that in relation to leadership.
Sure. We've got a 5-day leadership practitioner program in July 2018. And this is going to be about unleashing your leadership potential. And so this is for people who are in leadership roles who really are going to find themselves managing and want to step into actually leading different areas of their lives and in the organizations that they're working in.
Yeah.
Cool. And that is the Leadership Practitioner Program. Jay.
It is an exhaustive and comprehensive look at you as an individual and your relationship with how you lead yourself and others. It is comprehensive. It is looking at you through multiple lenses, stages of development, personality structures. It's looking at management versus leadership and how you relate to that, meta programs. It's looking at emotional intelligence in leadership, spiritual intelligence in leadership, and IQ in leadership. So it's looking at the interrelationship between people and functions. It's looking at it through first, second, third, fourth person perspective. It is going to be a absolute phenomenal program like has never been really run on the planet that Joseph and I are currently creating. It's going to be off the chain.
Great stuff. And a little reminder for everybody, we've got some dates coming up. Max, you want to just get back in the room. Max, do you just want to run through what we've got coming up for everybody?
Sure. So as part of the Coaching Room community, if you've done any of the programs, NLP, Master Practitioner, Coaching Genius, or Coaching Mastery, they're all coming up in the next couple of months. So if you've done these programs and you want to get back in the room, we'd love to see you there. The dates are up here, and I'll post a link to the dates as well on the link below. And yeah, so get back in the room. We'd love to see you, you know, in service of you and your learning, and really embodying that for yourself.
Yeah, we'd love to see you back in the room. If you haven't engaged with us, come engage with us toward the end of this year. Come refine your developmental edge, and as we find ours.
Fantastic. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Jay. Jay, last thoughts, comments, leaving everyone in relation to leadership.
Start with yourself.
There we go. Don't need any more. Everybody, that was Jay Headley. Thank you, Max. You know where we are. Check out the site. We'll be having more content, but there'll be an article. If you're watching this live, there'll be an article which we'll create from this as well, so you can refresh there. Take care, and we'll see you all.
See ya.